Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm here talking about this Venus-Jupiter exchange again. This is Love Bomb Part 2. The reason I'm doing Love Bomb Part 2, you may have seen I did Love Bomb Part 1. This Venus-Jupiter exchange is impactful for the next several months until May 15th. And the first video that I did, I talked a lot about the sort of, we'd say, inner conflict between Venus and Jupiter. And I'm going to talk about that also in this video, but I'm going to talk about the higher manifestations of that conflict, you would say, in this video, where the deepest devotion and grace is revealed. As it says here, this subtitle, Guru's Grace, Truth Revealed. I was speaking more in the first video about the disruption to the Venus principle and how, especially the Venus principle relative to our relationships, our interactions with others, and it doesn't just mean romantic relationships, it means even in our personal agreements, right? And all of our relationships are agreements, even just the agreement to be kind and respectful and nice to each other or something. And if someone violates that and disrespects the other one, then we break the agreement. Then it's this agreement or interaction is no longer worth it to me, right? And it's the Venus part of us that breaks it. Even just you watching this video or whatever, there's something about it that you like, that has some value or maybe beauty, which is the Venus thing. But if I were to start saying things that were ugly or disrespectful, or you felt like whatever it might be, and it happens, right? You watch people and then you stop watching because they sound angry, which is the Mars thing, or judgmental, which is the Jupiter thing in the negative. Then you're, okay, I'm not feeling, this isn't of value to me so much. And the agreement that I have to spend my time and attention watching you is no longer worth it to me, the value. So again, with Venus, everything is about the value we're getting from it. You want to understand this because it's easy to get spun around with Venus, particularly once we get in a relationship and we feel like we're deserved something, or that we're owed something. It's funny. I get emails all the time from people. I got an email just yesterday from someone, something like, you're messing up your videos. You should be more blah, blah, blah. And I didn't even know what they were talking about. Turns out this person sent a rude message to me. And the reason is because I made a swallowing noise at the beginning of the video and I didn't remove it from the video. He felt like I was not appreciating him by not taking the extra time to edit out the noise that I made. But so again, it's strange how we calibrate what feels respectful to us. And that's the Venus thing. And so I talked in the first video about how much Jupiter affects Venus in this sense and brings a sense of sort of judgment and high expectation and disappointment and projection, the soulmate fantasy thing. But then there's also another influence here. And particularly with this exalted Venus, which is in the sign of Pisces, influencing Jupiter and Jupiter bringing that higher quality, because again, and it's all part of the same process. Once we evolve beyond expecting that someone is going to be nice to us or appreciate us, whether it's in a casual relationship or in a romantic relationship, then we're actually free. We're actually liberated. That person sent me that message. His last thing is said, "Don't be mad." And I'm like, why do you think I would be mad? I don't even know you. And I don't even know what you were talking about. But we can get into these kinds of things, but the evolutionary process of Venus and the higher evolutionary principle of Venus is to be liberated from the worldly association, the worldly agreement where we expect that someone's going to be nice to me all the time, or that I deserve to have everybody be nice to me. And if not, I'm going to get all worked up, right? And when that happens, we become liberated of the expectation that we're going to be happy. with other people. Now, again, I want to be clear because this is also where people go off the rails with their judgments and say, well, that doesn't mean we're supposed to let people abuse us and people mistreat us. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we don't take it personally when we become more liberated and more devoted to beauty itself. Those lower qualities of what might seem like abuse or mistreatment don't have a place to land in us anymore. The higher quality here is this guru's grace, elevating the vibration of both Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter elevates that worldly sensual quality of Venus. So things like devotion to God and guru's grace is a huge part of this shift that's happening also between January 27th and May 15th. Devotion, not just emotions and not just localized beauty, because localized beauty is that person in the body or those words that you're hearing or being treated nice. All of that revolves around your experiences here on this earth as a separate being. But transcendent beauty isn't confined to this earth, this body, this experience, or anything anyone can do to you, which also literally means that when someone is mean and acting a certain way to you, it doesn't feel abused because it doesn't feel abusive because you're not attached to it. This is the thing that's hard to convey when people want to assign these kinds of, well, but you're doing this, and these judgments and opinions, they in some ways miss the point. The highest yogic principle is that beyond blame or praise, beyond flattery or blame, is where liberation lies. And that comes through devotion, because then we're just so grateful that we can experience the beauty of life. And just like people are devoted to their children, for example, Jupiter is the planet of devotion. Jupiter is the planet of devotion even more than Venus. And Venus is the planet. This is why Venus, Jupiter interrupt each other. Venus is the planet of beauty. Jupiter is the planet of devotion. They're different. Again, we're devoted to our children. A very different type of feeling for our children and our gurus and the ones that we love without condition than Venus, which is about our lovers and our partners and people we're in agreements with. We're not devoted to them. We can be, but those relationships work not because of devotion, but because of the agreement, the contract. So the elevated prospect and possibility of Jupiter Venus here, again, especially with this exalted Venus, because it could be Venus in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Libra. That's also an exchange. But in that context, Venus is an exalted. So the dignities of the planets also matter. And by the way, I did want to say, if you were interested, I am doing these 15-minute readings. It's just 15 minutes, but again, it's focused on this love bomb reading where I break these things out for you, including the devotion, not just the sort of disappointment cycle of Venus, Jupiter, where we can feel disappointed but it's where we have the possibility of elevating our relationships into a deeper devotional possibility. These are the things that I go over in that 15-minute reading, because again, these signs of Taurus, which is where Jupiter is, and Pisces, which is where Venus is, are going to affect you in specific ways. Maybe you have planets there. Maybe you don't, but you certainly, maybe it's your ascendant, or maybe certainly they will be different houses, like from your ascendant. If you're Cancer, you're going to have it in your 9th and 11th houses, even if there are no planets there, etc. Plus, the planets are rulers. Jupiter is ruling something for you, and so is Venus. If you're Scorpio, Venus rules your 7th and 12th house, and Jupiter rules your 2nd and 5th house. And they're going to be in your 7th houses, your 5th houses. So they're all going to be lined up whether or not this is going to be a big, what's called sambandha, a big exchange of energy. Again, I've talked about how at times that Jupiter, that high standard of Jupiter, because again, Jupiter is where we're looking to be devoted to something. This is why, again, Venus and Jupiter can interrupt, because Venus wants to have the relationship, and then we're like, oh yes, and I'm so devoted. Venus can say, with Jupiter's influence, but we're not devoted to our lover because the lover relationship is still going to work based on mutual respect. It's the child relationship and the guru relationship which works because of devotion. Now, again, we can be devoted to our partnership and all, but we are devoted to our partnership because there's an aspect of devotion in the relationship, for example, because we have the same guru or we have the same goal. People get devoted to their relationship when they're devoted to the same child, for example. Then their relationship has a quality of devotion. They're both devoted to something else. But just devotion to the other person as a romantic partner is going to fail eventually. There has to be a higher devotional goal, right? And so, again, aside from the relationship part, just as an individual, you're looking for beauty and enjoyment and connection through Venus to the physical world, to the sensual world, to other people. And this exalted Venus in Pisces exchanging with Jupiter in Taurus brings this powerful quality of devotion into the mix. Now, again, of course, Rahu is also there, and Rahu just amplifies the Venus energy, which means that it can just bring a lot of that amplified sensuality and potential for beauty and joy. And again, it's Pisces. So we're naturally looking to elevate and transcend our personal desires now and connect it with that higher devotional possibility. So for everyone, regardless of your ascendant, I could tick through all 12 of them. I've already looked at this. But for all 12 ascendants, regardless of what your rising sign is, this 15-minute look into your chart where I just go over the house placements, right? Where are those houses falling in your chart? Of course, that also means any planets in Pisces or in Taurus. I have my Jupiter in Pisces. I don't have anything in Taurus, but again, Venus rules my 5th and 12th house, Jupiter 7th and 12th, and 7th and 10th and the 12th. So these things are going to dial in when I talk about that reading. And these are the fields into which that elevated devotion will be playing out. And again, Venus in Pisces is the transcendent mystical devotion. Jupiter in Taurus is the practical expression of it. So we're all much keyed into the practices now and the potential to bring the practices out of the ethers, out of the, I feel and I'm so inspired, out of that place where it's just some emotion, some emotional experience, into a practice, a practical experience where you actually connect to the heart through, again, practices. At some point, you got to sit there and breathe and introspect and not just do it because you're going to get something from it. Again, that's what people are often doing with spiritual practices. It's driven by the ego, which means, all right, I'm doing it because I want to get the result. Okay, I'm breathing. Okay, I don't feel nothing yet. Don't feel nothing yet. When's it going to start? And we're all just trying to get something, go somewhere. That's all ego. There's no devotion in that. There's no love in it. When there's no, where am I going? What am I getting out of it? Again, like with our kids, think of something that you have love and devotion for. You're not trying to get anywhere with them. You're just the blessing of them in your life. Or just the blessing of that guru, the blessing of those teachings, the blessing of, again, it could be the blessing of nature. It could then eventually just be the blessing of life. Again, that's the highest quality of Jupiter, which is just the blessings, and Venus is the beauty. And Jupiter is the devotion to the thing, where we then get outside of our comfort zone because the thing is so beautiful, we can't do it enough. That's what Jupiter is. It's the blessings and the devotion, which is something bigger than just this earth. And think about it, when you turn a person and you attach something that to a person, they're bound to disappoint you. They don't have to do anything. They've already disappointed them because you've objectified them. And this is how people objectify each other, because we feel that Venus thing and then we're like, oh yes, my whole life now revolves around you're the thing that's inspiring. No, that's only gonna, so in the relationship part, But when we take the same thing and instead of attaching it to a person, it's attached to the source of beauty itself, then it becomes devotion. And so again, this high devotional potential is there now. And again, based on where these two planets are in your chart, you'll see and feel that aspect of life that is getting amplified and magnified with that devotional possibility. I don't think I gave it as much a hearing in my first video. I think I talked a little more about some of the difficulty of the exchange. But again, it is a difficult exchange because it's confusing, and it's important that we understand the confusion that arises between these two. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that there's this high devotional potential. And again, also, if you did want to have me talk about this for 15 minutes, it's not that much. It's about half to a third of what I usually do. And again, I could get in there and just show you the spiritual potential to unwind for the next several months into the middle of May. And again, it also just talking about the way these things are in your chart, because they're set up a certain way in your chart, whether you do it or not. And these highlights may show up relative to your work and your career and other things as well. So if that also works for you, then go ahead and do it. But I wanted to make sure to talk about this for everyone. And I hope this was helpful for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.